This video is sponsored by Brilliant.org. More on that later. Hi, this is Matt Baker. A few months ago, a certain YouTuber made a video called Does Your Flag Fail?, in which he graded all of the US state flags using a tier list. Well, since today is Canada Day, I thought it would be fun to do something similar, but this time using Canadian flags. Now, the first thing you need to know is that Canada is not made up of states. It's made up of provinces, 10 to be exact. However, in addition to its 10 provinces, Canada also has 3 territories. So in total, I'll be grading 13 flags. I'm going to go west to east, starting with the provincial flags, which means that the flag of British Columbia is up first. Now, British Columbia happens to be the province where I live, but I'm not going to give it any special treatment. And to tell you the truth, I am not a fan of this flag. For one thing, I really hate how the UK flag at the top is stretched out. I mean, that's just really bad graphic design. I also don't like how the blue wavy lines at the bottom end up competing with the blue parts in the UK flag, and how in general there's just way too many lines doing way too many things. You've got yellow curvy lines, blue curvy lines, red straight lines, blue triangles. I mean, it's kind of a mess. And then there's a crown thrown in on top too, and it's not even a very nice looking crown. So sorry, I'm going to have to give this one an F. Fellow British Columbians, if you disagree, feel free to give me grief in the comments. Next up is Alberta. This is the only Canadian flag that looks a lot like a US flag. As you probably know, a lot of US state flags are simply the state coat of arms or seal on top of a blue background. The New York state flag is a good example of this. Well, the Alberta flag is basically the same thing. It's just the coat of arms of Alberta on a blue background. But I actually kind of like the Alberta coat of arms, so I therefore kind of have to like this flag too. I mean, it's got the Rocky Mountains, the foothills, some fields of wheat, all of which give you a pretty good idea of what Alberta looks like. So that's pretty cool. I do find it strange, though, that it incorporates only the red cross, which is the flag of England, rather than the full flag of the UK. I mean, personally, I think we should get rid of all the British elements in all of our flags, since Canada is now a country made up of people from lots of different backgrounds. So I don't know. Supposedly, it's a throwback to the coat of arms of the Hudson's Bay Company, which used to control what is now Alberta. Anyway, like I say, I do kind of like the flag, so I'm going to give it a C. We now come to Saskatchewan. First off, I like that the main colors are yellow and green, a combination that you don't tend to see a lot on flags from Western countries. So this helps the Saskatchewan flag to really stand out when it's flying next to the other provincial flags. Plus, Saskatchewan is a very agricultural province, so the colors fit. I also like how their coat of arms is shown in the top left corner and how the provincial flower is placed on the right to balance it. So overall, I really like this flag. I'm going to give it an A. All right, next is Manitoba. And in order to explain this one, I first have to show you this. Before our famous maple leaf flag was adopted in 1964, this was actually the de facto flag of Canada. You'll notice that it follows a pattern similar to the flag of Australia. You see, the UK has what's called a red ensign and a blue ensign, both of which are used for vessels at sea. The red one is used for merchant ships or private boats, whereas the blue one is used for ships in public service, such as the Coast Guard. The original flag of Canada was based on the red ensign, whereas the flag of Australia is based on the blue ensign. All of that to say that the flag of Manitoba follows the same pattern as the old flag of Canada. It's basically just a red ensign with the Manitoban coat of arms on the right. Again, you've got the red cross to represent the Hudson's Bay Company, but this time below it, there's a bison, also known as an American buffalo. The North American prairies used to be full of bison, but then they almost went extinct before conservationists stepped in and helped them to rebuild their population. Anyway, I do like the inclusion of the bison, but overall, due to its lack of creativity, this flag is just kind of meh. I'm going to put it in C with the Alberta flag. Next up is Ontario, Canada's largest province. And well, it looks as though somebody copied someone else's homework because, yeah, the flags of Manitoba and Ontario are almost identical. I looked into this and it appears that Ontario adopted its flag about 1 month before Manitoba. So, sorry, Manitoba, but I think if somebody has to change their flag, it's going to have to be you. For this reason, I'm actually going to put Ontario's flag in the B section. If Manitoba did come up with something different, I do think it would be nice to have at least one flag that looks like the original Canadian flag. And being that Ontario is Canada's largest province and one of its original 4, I think it makes sense for Ontario to have that privilege. Plus, it's even got those 3 maple leaves like the old flag had. So I guess I'm being a bit nostalgic with this choice. All right, we've now reached Quebec. And how shall I put this? The rest of Canada has always had a bit of a rocky relationship with Quebec. I mean, they did try to leave us twice. In 1980, 40% of Quebecers voted to leave Canada. And in 1995, support for separation rose to 49.5%. But even though it was super close, the attempt failed. So Quebec is still one of the 10 Canadian provinces. However, it does have a unique history, and that can be seen in its flag. Not only was Quebec the first province to adopt its own flag, the design it chose makes it clear that Quebec is tied more to France historically than to England or the UK. Back in the 1600s, when Quebec was first settled as New France, the flag used by the French Navy looked like this. If you remove the royal emblem and then add 4 very French-looking fleur-de-lis symbols, voila, you have the flag of Quebec, an extremely simple design based on blue and white that nicely contrasts with the maple leaf flag, which is based on red and white. In other words, I think that the design of the Quebec flag raises it to the level of a national flag, which is fitting considering that Quebec sees itself as a nation within a nation. This is therefore going to be the first flag that I'm going to put in the S, or super category. Okay, next up is the 4 smallest Canadian provinces, starting with New Brunswick. One thing I forgot to mention about British Columbia's flag is that it is simply its coat of arms stretched out, which is why the UK flag looks so bad. Well, this flag is similar in that it's simply New Brunswick's coat of arms stretched out. But for some reason, I think this one works way better. It uses the same 4 colors, but here they don't interfere with each other like they do in the BC one. Plus, I just really like the boat. From a drawing point of view, I think it's just really nicely designed. It represents either New Brunswick's shipbuilding industry or the arrival of loyalists following the American Revolution. The lion, well, that's the part I like the least. Mostly because it's stretched out, but also because it's yet another colonial symbol, being based on either England's coat of arms or Brunswick's in Germany, which is where the name New Brunswick comes from. All in all, I'm going to give it a B. Next up is Prince Edward Island. It's very similar to New Brunswick's, but I like it far less. For one thing, I really don't like the alternating red and white rectangles on 3 out of the 4 sides. I mean, why? It just makes it look messy. And the trees, well, the problem there is that there doesn't seem to be a consistent design that is always used. There's always 3 little trees on the left, which represent PEI's 3 counties, and 1 big tree on the right, representing England. But there doesn't seem to be any set standard with regard to how to draw them, because I've seen the trees drawn in lots of different ways. So, sorry, Prince Edward Island. Even though I loved visiting you pretty much every year when I was a kid, I don't really like your flag. I'm going to have to give it an F. So the reason why I visited PEI so much as a kid is because I grew up just next door in the province of Nova Scotia. That's where I was born, and that's where I spent my first 18 years. The words Nova Scotia are Latin for New Scotland, and its flag is very much tied to Scotland as well. First of all, the main part is the reverse of the Scottish flag. So instead of a white cross on blue, Nova Scotia has a blue cross on white. In addition to this, in the middle is the coat of arms of Scotland, which gives the flag just a little more color and makes it more interesting. And here, I have to admit that I am probably biased. I grew up in Nova Scotia, and I love this flag. Maybe it's because I saw it so much growing up, but maybe it's because it's just a really nice design. You let me know what you think in the comments, but I'm going to give it an S. We've now come to the final Canadian province, Newfoundland. The first thing I like about this flag is that it is not in any way connected to its corresponding coat of arms. All of the Canadian provinces, except for Quebec and Newfoundland, have flags that are based on their coats of arms. This just seems lazy to me. So I'm impressed that Newfoundland went out of its way to come up with something unique. This probably boils down to the fact that Newfoundland was the final province to join Canada, as well as the last to adopt a provincial flag. I also like how it kind of looks like the UK flag, which to me is a great design. But at the same time, it's also quite different. It's got that yellow arrow pointing outwards from the flagpole, which I think creates a nice effect. And if you turn it 90 degrees, it also looks like the pendants that were worn by Newfoundland's native population. This was done on purpose and I think makes for a nice touch. So as you can tell, I really like this flag. For me, it's another S. So that's the 10 provinces. But we're not done yet because we still have 3 territorial flags to do. Again, we'll go west to east, which means that Yukon is up first. I'm really conflicted about this one because on one hand, I absolutely love the coat of arms in the middle. It's got a Malamute dog, often used to pull sleds. It's got 2 mountains with some wavy rivers in between. And it's got some really nice flowers at the bottom. But on the other hand, I really don't like the green and blue stripes on the sides. It makes the flag seem unbalanced to me. Honestly, if they removed those and just had the shield on a plain white background, this would have been an A for me. I mean, it's the Yukon. It snows a lot. White would have been perfect. The green is supposed to represent Yukon's forests, and the blue its rivers and lakes. But like I said, I think they just ruin it. The coat of arms is already a bit too busy, and the stripes just make it even more busy. Too much going on, so sadly, I'm going to have to place it in D. Next up is the Northwest Territories. I like that this time the stripes on the 2 sides match, but I think the coat of arms is not quite as nice as the Yukon one. Sure, there's a cute white fox and a blue wavy line representing the Northwest Passage through the ice, but the green and red part seems a bit too abstract for me. The green is supposed to represent the forest south of the tree line, with the yellow rectangles representing the resources found there. And the red is supposed to represent the tundra to the north, but you probably wouldn't have figured all that out unless I had told you, which is why I think the whole thing kind of falls flat. So I'm going to have to put it next to its friend, the Yukon, in D. Okay, last but not least is Nunavut, a territory that was only created in 1999, when the Northwest Territories was split in 2. The flag features an Inukshuk, which is a pile of stones used by indigenous peoples to serve as kind of a marker. The word Inukshuk means like a human, which is why they often look like a standing person. Although unconventional, I think this flag is actually great because it makes use of this indigenous symbol that is so strongly associated with the Canadian North. Personally, I would have preferred it without the star in order to make the design even more simple and stark, but it does have a cool meaning. It represents the leadership and wisdom of indigenous elders. So overall, I like this one. I'm going to give it an A. So obviously these rankings are just my personal opinion, and this video was just a bit of fun. But I'm interested to know what you think. Was I totally off on any of these? Which one do you think is the best? What about the worst? Let me know in the comments. And before you go, let me tell you about Brilliant.org, an amazing interactive learning tool that can help you gain new skills in a fun visual way. As you know, I'm a chart person, so visual learning is super important to me. And one of the areas that Brilliant focuses on, in addition to math, science, and computing, is data analysis, which is a key step when it comes to making charts and infographics. So I decided to try out this course about data analysis fundamentals. And what do you know? There were lots of charts, useful charts. It's been proven time and time again that the best way to learn is by doing. And I really like how Brilliant makes this easy by getting you to participate at every step. The whole process is very intuitive, but also very low pressure. You can learn in bite-sized pieces at your own pace. Sound good? Well, all you have to do is go to brilliant.org/usefulcharts to get a 30-day free trial. The first 200 people will get 20% off their annual subscription, so don't wait. Thanks for watching.